Welcome back to the horrors of difficulty. Hello everyone, and welcome to Let's Play Super Ghouls and Ghosts. It's been a while since I did Ghosts and Goblins, the Gargoyles quest games, and Ghouls and Ghosts on the Genesis, so I figured, you know what, it's finally time to return to this universe. Let's just get right on into the game, shall we? I'd like to note that's the only time we see the Satan enemy from Ghosts and Goblins in the entire game. Either way, starting off, Aruther has a new ability. He can now double jump, and double jumping in a lot of places will cause chests to show up similarly to Ghouls and Ghosts, and I think Ghosts and Goblins, where standing on certain sections of the screen will cause chests to show up. The first one in this game is always a weapon. The second one is the green armor, which will enhance your weapons to a second level. However, I should note, at the cost of the double jump, Aruther can no longer aim up in general or down when he's jumping like he could in Ghouls and Ghosts. You're back just to aiming left and right. His control is still as stiff as it used to be, but honestly, on the whole, it's not too bad. Double jump here, and our third chest appears. The third chest in the game, which we're going to get in a moment just because there's way too many enemies around it. There we go. Contains the third the gold armor returning from Ghouls and Ghosts, which, as with that game, allows you to charge up your weapons for a magical attack. In terms of the weapons I prefer to use for this game, it's more or less the same as it was in Ghouls and Ghosts and such. Lance and Dagger are generally my two go-tos, because they're fairly blunt and straight to the point. Though, one of the new weapons for this game I tend to use every now and then too for boss fights because of its magic attack. Now, coming up here, we're about to get our fourth chest, and the fourth chest in this case, if you haven't gotten hit yet, is going to contain a shield. The shield is more or less an upgrade to our current shield. Our current shield can protect us from smaller enemies, and I mean small, and some projectiles at the cost of itself. Once you upgrade it to a blue one, it basically takes really strong projectiles to destroy it. It can just basically deflect anything else. So essentially, where Aruther is most powerful right now. At this point, any and all chests we find are more or less going to be following a pattern, barring the very few set chests in the game. It's going to be weapon, then the wizard. You might remember the wizard from the last game. If his magic hits you, he turned you, I think, into a baby in Ghouls and Ghosts. In this, he turns you into a townswoman who can't really do anything. You can still jump pretty well, except for your double jump's gone. But on the whole, it can be kind of dangerous to have that happen to you in the middle of a crowded area. We got on screen right now, actually see two of the 4 point-based items in the game. There's an armored statue, which is 200 points. That armored statue we saw back there, which was 500. That gray money bag, oh no, that's the gold money bag that's worth 1,000, and the gray money bag is worth 500. In terms of all of the weapons in this game, we're going to be seeing a good amount of them as we go through, but you start with the lance, which still travels in a straight line, the dagger, which is the same thing, only faster. You can have 3 at a time on screen, I think. The axe is back, and it still travels in as weird of a looping pattern as it used to, and it's still pretty slow. There's the crossbow, which is new. When it's not upgraded, it fires 2 arrows. More or less at a 45-degree angle. It's not directly straight on, so you do need to be kind of close to things to hit them with it, although ducking can at least help with that. But on the whole, not the most useful unupgraded. There's the torch, which, like with the previous games, I recommend staying the hell away from. Really slow, puffs up a little fireball, nothing too useful. Oh, okay, I'm a woman now. Whenever this happens to you, just hope you're not in a crowded area and wait around, because it's the only way you can really avoid not getting hit. New to this game is the scythe weapon, which is pretty fast, and it does some good damage. You can also aim downwards with it, in the case like you hold down with it, but that's not going to be too useful unless you're near a ledge. There's a tri-blade, which is kind of boomerangy, but let's put it like this. For some reason, it's like the rarest weapon in my experience. I only see one in the entire game, and I move towards it, but I don't grab it. It moves in a bit of an L-shaped pattern. When you throw it, it goes up, then back down, then away from you, then back. Kind of in a weird L shape. When upgraded with the green armor, though, the lance becomes the flaming lance, which, as you can see, does more damage and has a flaming trail. When you get the gold armor, you get its magic, the lightning bolt, which causes the lightning bolt to strike Aruther, damaging anything directly above him and to the sides of him. And now we got our first boss, the cockatrice. The cockatrice likes to fly around and block your progress forward with his legs, only really opening up when he fires an egg forward that can hatch into a smaller cockatrice, or when he's extending his neck. As you can see, magic tears him apart. In fact, magic tears apart most boss fights, which is pretty good. And yes, I'm going to be quiet for that every time. I will say the one downside to magic is that since it's the best way to take out bosses, you're often required to go through most of the stage without getting hit. Which is hard, yes, but I will say, despite this game having quite the notorious difficulty, I think Ghosts and Goblins is a harder game, honestly. Because you have so many more options and that double jump around with you, the game is a lot easier than you think it is. It's still hard, don't get me wrong, but it's not impossible. I still think out of the 3 games I played that's not Gargoyle's Quest, Ghouls and Ghosts on the Genesis/PC engine is still the easiest, just due to your movement options. By that I mean the fact you can aim all around you. But this still isn't that bad. Either way, welcome to Stage 2. This place is home to quite a few ghosts that like to try and swarm you all over the place, which is probably the most annoying part of the stage, considering you will have to keep not only an active eye on the thing you're trying to dodge, but anything that might try to blindside you when you're not paying attention. It's also home to mimics, which you can't damage unless they're open for some reason. Either way, the dagger, well, we've seen what the dagger did earlier. You fire 3 forward. When it's upgraded, though, it becomes the magic dagger, which I think you can still only have 3 or 4 on screen at a time, but they shoot forward faster and they have a larger hitbox. And its magic is the fire dragon magic, where a blazing blue dragon, as we even saw earlier, somewhat encircles half the screen. It kind of goes up from you, the direction you face, down and up to the top of the screen and across. It's probably one of the better ones for boss fights, albeit it's one of the harder ones to aim because it's very easy to miss with it at the same time. But it's going to get some use later on. The axe becomes, I think, the double-edged axe or something. It's stronger and bigger, but not too much more useful. I think it comes down as well. Either way, new to Ghosts and Goblins is auto-scrolling. At least I think. I don't recall there being one in Ghouls and Ghosts. And this section is kind of annoying, mostly just because it takes so long. Thankfully, for the most part, it's very hard to scroll yourself off the screen. Be it being crushed by things on the left, or just not being able to catch up with the current scrolling. Because this is one of those cases where the platform you're on follows where you are. You're just basically following the camera. And actually, in a way, it's more or less a more restricted version of Mario 3D Land's camera physics. Auto-scrolling physics, rather. Not even physics. Mechanics. There we go. Though you do need to watch out, because things like this coral wall will hurt you, so you need to be careful. This entire section is more or less just about all keeping your eyes out. Stay around the middle of the screen, and you should be fine for the most part, though. The scythe, when it gets upgraded, I think becomes a super scythe or something. Actually, wait, no, I forgot to mention. The axe is magic. You fire a circle of lasers out from you. Its area of effect can be kind of iffy because it's not like a complete complete area of effect. It's like 8 or 9 specific straight lines of lasers that can be kind of hard to hit with depending on where you are. But considering what the axe is like to begin with, it's not the most worth it. The crossbow becomes the magic crossbow, which not only gains an extra projectile, but it homes in on enemies like nothing else. If you're having a hard time hitting enemies, it's probably your best bet, and honestly, it's probably my second favorite weapon in the game, next to the magic daggers. Its magic, though, is one of the worst. I think it's just called the Seeking Magic. Essentially, it causes the screen to flash, and if there's any chests on screen that can be revealed, they will be. So if you're trying to get, like, the gold armor or the shield, it's pretty useful. But beyond that, it's better off as just a melee attack. And that's sad, too, because magic's really good against boss fights in this game, as you'll see. The torch becomes the magic torch, which gets more of a holy water from Castlevania effect. It travels forward a bit more, and the flames go up a bit higher. Still not worth using. Its magic becomes the shield magic, where 3 orbs come up and protect you. It sounds useful for a game where you die in 2 hits most of the time, yes, but it's pretty underwhelming. You can mostly destroy smaller enemies in one shot, but enemies that have 2 health like this merman, you're probably gonna get hit. The scythe becomes the magic scythe, which is bigger, and I think it has a lingering effect where it damages enemies a bit more. And its magic is probably the best in the game, the tornado spell, where a couple of tornadoes spawn in you and then rotate out from you until they reach like the upper corners of the screen. For boss fights, that is your best bet because it damages so much so quickly that it's pretty broken. The one weapon I haven't talked about yet, I think... No, actually, no, I talked about the Tri-Blade earlier. The Tri-Blade becomes, I think, the Shuriken, which has the exact same attack pattern, just bigger and stronger. And its magic is a nuclear magic. It's basically a horizontal explosion above you. Not that useful. And the boss for this stage is this giant barnacle head thing. I don't know. Not all the bosses have names from what I know. Lightning magic's really good against it. It likes to move back and forth across the screen, firing a few shell missiles at you, which will pierce your shield, by the way, so watch out for that. But if you use the invincibility frames that the lightning magic gives you to walk right through it anyway, it's very easy to spam this magic and kill it really quickly without any real threat. Also, that reminds me, I mentioned the shield getting pierced. I think I actually misspoke a few moments ago. I think the blue shield actually protects you from 3 shots before it gets destroyed. Whoops. Also, you might notice at the end of every stage it says nice catch. From my knowledge, that only happens if you touch the key at the end of a stage while you're holding up on the D-pad, and I'm not exactly sure why that's a thing. I don't think it gives you a point bonus or anything, so... either way, let's go over the plot for the game as it's listed in the manual, even though on the whole, you could really tell what happened from just the start of the game. Let's see, where are you in here? A knight's quest! All hail, dauntless knight Arthur! Years ago, you quelled the terrifying phantoms of the Ghoul realm who hexed the earth and rescued Princess Guinevere. Since that time, you've journeyed over the world seeking the powerful weapons of white magic. But now the kingdom is shrouded under an eerie spell. Sardius, the Emperor of Evil, has snatched Princess Guinevere away from the slimy crypts of the Phantom Zone. The Ghoul realm has revived, and the creatures of the undead hunt the land. Once again, you must survive the dangerous journey into the depths of the Ghoul realm. You'll swat at horrid ectoplasms and ghouls whose touch is deadly. Vampires will swing around your head, voracious plants will snap at you, hungry for bones to gnaw. The earth will crack, the seas will swell, and the fiends of darkness will engulf you. Your courage and skill will keep you moving through overwhelming terrors. And on the path, a mighty weapon, magic, awaits. Buckle on your sword, Arthur. It's time to begin the quest, but we only had a sword in the Genesis game. Either way, Stage 3 is where things start to get a bit cramped, admittedly, because you have a lot of smaller spaces with bigger enemies in them like that. But there's also cases like this where below you isn't necessarily instant death, but you're gonna get damaged more than likely. Notable, as you see these platforms, they have spikes on the bottom. Those will damage you if you make your jump wrong, so make it count. Because Arthur's jumping controls, while the double jump does help with making some jumps, he's still really stiff in the control department there. Knockback is also still a thing, pretty much. However, I'm not sure if it's because bottomless pits are rarer in this game. It's harder to die via knockback. Also, I like this graphical effect. Fun fact, if I'm recalling the way the game is actually programmed, what's actually happening with this cool scrolling effect on the tower, the tower isn't actually rotating. The sprite that we're walking on is moving, yes, but it's more or less just moving at that angle. The entire tower is actually moving from left to right while you're in the center of it, which is pretty cool. Then that actually becomes pretty obvious once you look at the background, admittedly, but nice detail all the same. I like seeing workarounds to make stuff look cool like that. The pots that enemies can have still drop the same stuff, generally either the 2 armor types for points, or even rarely a weapon, which is pretty cool. Now, there's one chest in this stage I think I missed, but I can never seem to find where it is. Also, yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes the chests can now drop traps. I don't want to say it's every couple after you've gotten the shield from the golden armor. But it's so rare you don't need to worry about it as long as you don't stand immediately where the chest is after you destroy it trying to get the item. Either way, coming up in this stage is actually the first time I want to actively grab the scythe weapon, because its magic is just better for some of the later boss fights. Now, admittedly, this is where something comes into danger, where I had no guarantee I was going to get the scythe weapon. I guess if I didn't from the chests I knew were there, I could have just grinded enemies for it, but I got lucky. Also, while I'm grabbing point bags, I should probably mention this. At the start of the game, you actually saw me enter the options screen. There's a couple of things of interest in there. Control settings and such is pretty self-explanatory, but the live select allows you to select how many lives you start off with. Starting off with 9 puts you at 8 because 0 counts in this game. However, also notable is a difficulty select. This is one of those games where difficulty actually doesn't change that much in the long run, at least when it comes to how you survive. There's more enemies, a lot of them are faster, I think it takes more points to get extra lives, and bosses have more HP. I think that's all about it. The same strategies more or less apply in terms of avoidance and taking out bosses. You just need to be better about it, more or less. My boss for this stage is this weird, not graboid skull worm thing. This thing likes to home in on you where you first are, and then encircle you like this a bit. However, if you move during this, you will get hurt because he doesn't move with you. He's stuck here, you just need to stay in the center of him. Scythe magic takes him out pretty quickly because you do a lot of damage to him. However, every now and then he likes to fire a bit of gunk towards either the ceiling or towards the right. If it's towards the ceiling, it'll fall in a semi-random pattern. But if it's towards the right, it'll come back to the left, almost in a kind of yellow devilish pattern. However, it's a lot more random, and it's actually pretty hard to dodge all the same, just like Yellow Devil. However, with Scythe magic, this boss isn't really anything to write home about. In fact, a lot of the bosses in this game with magic are pretty easy. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 2, we'll be continuing along our stage rotation, figuring out what's going to happen next. See you guys then.